On this episode of AMA Air, two modelers participate in a fighter face-off.
Plus, learn how you can become a better drone photographer.
And find out how graduating seniors can apply for an AMA scholarship. All that and more on this episode of AMA Air.
Hello and welcome to AMA Air, your source for modeling news. I'm Chris Savage.
And I'm Claire Aldenheisen. Using drones for public safety is a popular topic, and now some law enforcement is expanding the use of drones. A new bill in Lee County, Florida could allow police officers to use drones to map crime scenes and search for missing persons. But this expanded use also involves using smaller drones to fly under structures. The Lee County Police even used small FPV drones to fly through air conditioning ducts prior to President Trump's visit to the area. You can learn more at NBC-2.com.
When designing model aircraft, it's useful to know the performance you can expect from the components chosen. But this can be difficult when it comes to motors and propellers. The manufacturer provides good information about the motors, but what if you want to test the motor with different propellers without buying an expensive device to measure thrust? Well, Instructable's user Nikus decided to design a printed circuit board for this purpose. He begins by collecting the necessary parts, designing the printed circuit board, and then moves on to soldering. He then builds the motor base and uploads the code. Once everything is built, he begins testing the device. You can learn more about his brushless motor thrust stand and how to build your own at Instructables.com.
AMA Expo East 2019 is less than 2 months away. In addition to the exhibitors, guest speakers, and more, AMA Expo East will feature RC resale on the road. The AMA Foundation will have the donated Charles Sylvia collection at the swap shop. You can preview the items in the collection at amafoundation.modelaircraft.org. AMA Expo East will be held February 22nd through 24th at the Meadowlands Exposition Center in Secaucus, New Jersey.
If you've been keeping up with Model Aviation magazine, you might have seen a recent 3-part series called Fighter Face-Off. But there's a little more to see. Let's take a look.
I'm Derek Micko.
And I'm Paul Coleman.
And this is our Fighter Face-Off video. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the concepts of our design, our philosophy, and sort of kind of the friendship that has grown as a result of it.
Yeah, Derek and I have been talking about this for quite a while. We both design airplanes.
We first started talking about it. It's like, you know, it'd be kind of fun to do a joint project and then maybe at some point in time get together and fly the aircraft together.
Ultimately, the thought of building 2 airplanes independently, included in that, became a historical competition where ultimately we picked 2 airplanes that actually met in combat.
You know, there's a lot of great Mustangs out there and fantastic Spitfires. We want to do something that's a little bit different, very distinctive in its time period.
We really wanted 2 airplanes that were kind of similar in your likelihood of running into them in the field. And the fact that the Curtiss P-36 met the Polikarpov was a bit of a surprise.
You can see the full video at modelaviation.com/fighter-face-off.
Have you been following the Fighter Face-Off?
I have.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it? I'm excited
cool.
for the conclusion, the dramatic conclusion.
I know, and I love that they've got details on how to build both planes, so if you want to do your own face-off.
Yeah, you could even, I don't know, make it in a public event. You could get the AMA grant for positive...
media coverage.
Media coverage!
Yeah, positive media coverage, right?
What we're doing.
Exactly. I love it.
Coming up, we will preview some local events and share how you can find one near you.
And still ahead, we're bringing you 7 tips to get started with aerial photography.
Every journey starts somewhere. Our journey begins with imagination. And imagination can take us anywhere. Because the best journeys end with new beginnings.
The Tejas RC Association is hosting the Tejas RC Fun Fly on January 19th in San Juan, Texas. You can fly what you bring at this annual event.
The Southern New Hampshire Flying Eagles will be holding the 2019 Frozen Fingers Fun Fly on January 27th in Merrimack, New Hampshire. The event will be held snow, rain, or shine.
The Sun Valley Flyers will be holding Winter Warbirds January 25th through the 27th in Cave Creek, Arizona. Warbirds of all eras and military schemes will be flown.
The Stanford Aeromodelers RC Club will be holding the Blue Max January 25th through 27th in Geneva, Florida. The event is described as a friendly fun fly held for Dawn Patrol-style planes of early aviation.
The Green Bay Model Airplane Club will be hosting a swap meet on January 20th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Admission is $5.
The Stanford Model Airplane Club is holding the Freeze Your Tail Feathers Fly-In on January 19th in Sanford, North Carolina. Any type of airplane of any size is welcome.
For more information on these events or to find one in your area, you can check out the sanctioned event calendar in Model Aviation or at modelaircraft.org.
Coming up, Matt Ruddick shares his top tips for aerial photography.
One of the first, most popular uses for drone technology was photography. Before the introduction of drones, capturing images from an aerial perspective was too cost prohibitive for most photographers. Now, with the right skill set, anyone can become an aerial photographer. Multi-Rotor Associate Editor Matt Ruddick has some tips to get you started.
Drone technology has made aerial photography way more accessible. And although it's a little less cost prohibitive than it used to be, there's still some things you need to remember before you take to the sky. Well, here are 7 tips that are going to help you take even more beautiful imagery from the sky. Tip 1, learn the rules of photography. This tip is for anyone learning photography, whether on the ground or in the air. You have to know the rules before you can break them. For example, you're going to want to know how shutter speed and ISO and aperture all work together to make the exposure triangle. Now, what that means is that all 3 of those work together to form your exposure. Now, if it's overexposed, that means it's going to be too bright. If it's underexposed, that means it's going to be too dark. And if one of those variables changes, you're going to have to change another one of those variables to compensate for it. Another important rule of photography has to do with composition, and it's called the rule of thirds. Now, what the rule of thirds does is help you decide where you're going to place your subject in your frame. What you do is take your frame and divide it up into 9 square boxes. Now, where those lines intersect, that's where you want to put your subject to have the most interesting composition for your image. Tip number 2, learn the law. Now, let's face it, reading a bunch of laws and regulations from Congress isn't the most exciting thing in the world to do, but there are a lot of important things you need to know before you go out to take photos with your photography drone. And one of the most important things has to do with whether or not you're going to fly commercially. And what that means is, are you going to get paid to do it? If you are, you're going to need to obtain your Part 107 certification from the FAA. And you can read more about how to get your Part 107 at modelaviation.com. However, if you're going to fly strictly for hobby purposes, then you don't need to get a Part 107. All you need to do is fly in accordance with the safety programming of a CBO, like the Academy of Model Aeronautics. Tip number 3, practice, practice, practice. Now, before you can get that perfect shot, you're going to need to take some time to learn how your drone operates and how you can best get the shot that you want and that you see in your head. So the first thing I recommend for people to do is to go out and purchase a small trainer drone, something like an Inductrix or something equivalent to that size, to learn how to get your bearings on the sticks. Start out by flying with the tail towards you and follow it around as you fly. That way you can get really synchronized with those stick movements and know exactly what you need to do once you're in the air with your photography drone to get the perfect shot. Tip number 4, prepare. And as we all know, preparation is the key to success, and it goes far beyond just knowing what shots you need to get and what period of time you have to get them in. As an example, you want to make sure that the weather's going to be cooperative that day, make sure the wind speeds aren't going to be too much for your rig, but also make sure that your cards are ready and your batteries are charged. Because once you get there on the site, you only have a set amount of time to get the shot you need. Tip number 5, use all of your frame. Now, the rule of thirds isn't the only thing to think about while you're composing your shots. Also think about putting some foreground elements into the shots as well to help direct the viewer's eye to the subject that you're trying to photograph. Tip number 6, know your format. Now, chances are your drone's going to be able to capture images either in JPEG or RAW format. Now, you're going to have to decide what's going to be best for your project, but I'll tell you a little bit about each one. For example, a JPEG shoots a file that it's much smaller in size, but also loses some data in the process. Now with RAW formats, you're going to have all of that raw data that came into the image sensor, and it's going to create a really large image size. However, you're going to have a lot of extra data to work with in post-processing. You'll also have to post-process that raw file in something like Adobe Lightroom or Adobe Photoshop. Each one has their benefits and each one has their negatives. You have to decide for yourself what's going to be best for your project. Tip number 7, grab a filter. Now, a filter like these are special pieces of glass that go on the front of your lens. And what they can do is a whole multitude of different things. We have polarizing filters, for example, as well as neutral density filters. Now, polarizing filters are really interesting because they can take the sky and make the blues far more richer than they used to be, and also knock down a lot of the glare that you might see from the sun. Now, neutral density filters, on the other hand, are like sunglasses for your camera. What they do is take this light that's coming into the camera and knock it down a bit so that you can be more creative with your camera settings and get the nice shot that you want. So there you have it. Those are our 7 tips for aerial photography. You follow those tips and you'll be an aerial photography pro in no time.
For more information from the world of drones, visit modelaviation.com/drone-pilot. There you can download a free digital copy of Model Aviation's Drone Pilot. Print copies are also available for just $2.
Do you know a graduating high school senior? Well, coming up, learn how they can apply for an AMA scholarship.
Do you have a story you think we should have on AMA Air? Then visit air.modelaircraft.org and tell us about it by sending us an airmail. And if you're not already a member of the AMA, be sure to visit modelaircraft.org and sign up today.
Each year, approximately $40,000 in endowments and scholarships is available to graduating seniors. These scholarships are awarded on the basis of AMA modeling activities, scholastic achievement, and citizenship achievement. You can download the 2019 scholarship application at amaflightschool.org. The deadline to apply is February 1st.
That's all for this episode of AMA Air. You can stay connected with us by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For even more videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And from all of us here at AMA, thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time, but for now, it's time to get flying.